My name is Aaron Tucker. I'm going to be giving a recap on what was covered over the last 8 weeks in this course regarding Innovators DNA, Innovators Method, and personal knowledge management. So, from the onset of the course, very interesting topics that were covered, primarily in regards to the Innovators DNA and how that relates to my own personal professional workplace. The 5 different topics that were covered in each chapter. I chose to identify one that I think that I'm strongest in, and one that I think that moving forward I can surely seek to improve and continue to better myself at. The one that I feel I'm strongest in would be the networking part. I think that I've always naturally been somewhat of a people person, so communicating effectively, kind of making sure that I'm working as a team in order to get that main goal accomplished has never really been like an detriment to myself. Something that I can work on, that I definitely think that I'm looking forward to continuing to challenge myself in my educational career would be experimenting, not just in my educational career, but in my professional career as well. I think that in my line of work, working for the government, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape. And I think that in order to kind of break that mold and move past that, it's important to continue to experiment and continue to try new things and continue to push yourself to innovate even more and continue to make sure that you're trying to put out that best product possible. The other interesting ones that I think that I'm kind of on the middle of the road with were observing, experimenting, networking, observing, and questioning is also something that I thought is very, very important. And I think that that goes kind of hand in hand with the experimenting, because if you're not questioning things around you, then you're not going to be able to observe and see that there's something that is wrong and something that you can correct. As far as the innovators method, there are a lot of very, very different, interesting topics in that portion throughout the nature of the course. Something that really stuck out to me was that innovative business model. I think that in order to change the culture in your personal work environment and your personal workspace, is very, very, very important to ensure that your business model, how you're approaching your work, and that can be on a small scale or it can be on a larger scale. I think it's very, very important for you to approach that business model in the most innovative way as possible. And it's good to kind of have that good baseline so that you can, as you continue to progress and as you continue to, other things may arise within your within the scope of your work, but you'll be able to have that solid base that's based in being prepared for change and being willing to change things as they arise. And I think that if you continue to push the culture of your business, if it's based around innovation, if it's based around progression, if it's based around progress, and it's based around moving forward, then I think that you'll have like a much easier time with implementing change and being able to adapt to the ever-changing market that's everywhere. Personal knowledge management is something that I think is a very, very, very useful tool. That like just the way the diagram was set up and what it really means for a company or organization, yes, but what that means for you as an employee or a subordinate under somebody else. I think the bottom up approach is if I had my kingdom, or if I was, running the agency that I work for, I think that it would be implemented instantly. I think that is invaluable, the amount of information, the wealth of knowledge, the detail that you can get just from taking that bottom up approach and ensuring that you are taking information from all sources. Because a lot of times we like to think that just because we're in a certain position that we somehow don't have somehow we're above taking information from another person who might be in a lower position than us. And I think that can prove to be over time an extreme detriment to the overall success of a company. I think going back to the innovator's DNA, like what really are the tools of what a true innovator is. Another one that I wanted to touch on a little bit more is the fact that true innovators do work differently. So it's like when you have innovation at the basis of what your approach is to anything that you do, whether it's doing laundry or cooking or any type of process that you have, because we have natural processes, some that we understand our processes, like our route that we take to get to work, and other ones are kind of like inadvertent, and they're kind of like we don't really realize that it's a process. I think that when you take that approach, and it can be applied to your personal or your professional life, I think that when you choose to start to think with an innovator's mind at all times, then you really, really start to see the benefits, not only just in your professional life and at work, but in your personal life. And it's so interesting. There was an assignment where I just found on a blog a 27 question, kind of like a litmus test to see where the leadership stood as far as it was kind of questions regarding like where the subordinates felt towards the leadership and the culture and the environment of the workplace. And I think that tools like that are invaluable because they help the leadership get an idea of where their people are and whether they're actually retaining the information that they're receiving, or whether it's just falling on deaf ears and people are just kind of doing the yes, dog and pony show. I think that finding that information and seeking out that information is an example of implementing that leadership, that innovator's DNA, that culture, and really, really changing the underlying mood of the entire environment. Because it's easy to just have something in front of you and choose to implement it at that time. But when you really, really commit to it, and this is something that I think that it kind of shifted my point of view on it, because typically when you think of innovators, you think of the Elon Musk of the world or the Steve Jobs of the world, but oftentimes we forget that there's very small, maybe not small, that's small is relative, but there's other actions and there's other processes that are in our everyday lives that can also be innovated and changed. And when you truly start to use those things like questioning, observing, networking, and experimenting with every process of your life, then you'll really start to see that translate into your professional life. And you'll start to see that kind of shift, that total shift and change in just kind of how your life is totally transformed. I thought that also the discussion videos, they were very, very informational regarding past innovators and why they chose to innovate. And oftentimes, it literally just came down to just thinking about what the most practical way to do something is, or simplifying a process. That is also innovation. I think sometimes a lot of us get jaded and we start to think that innovation is only this grand super idea, but in actuality we can truly affect change in smaller areas of our lives that might spark the idea to affect change on an astronomical exponential level.